We have our guest in the building. He is here. I did promise you that when we come back in the second hour, we will be talking to our guest. And now is the time. Now is the time. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, right? So he is Mr. Veli Ndaba, and he is a mind transformer. He transforms human minds from mental darkness to mental light. He believes that life doesn't give you what you want, but what you are. So his purpose is to help leaders understand the mechanics of the brain and how the mind gets into a state of peak performance. To achieve this, he pioneered a unique leadership high performance tool called Veli Ndaba NeuroEngineering Leadership Effect, also known as hashtag VNNLE, which he delivers with so much passion and energy in his talks, workshops, and coaching sessions. The VNNLE is based on fundamental principles of neuroscience, engineering, and motivation. Mr. Ndaba, how are you?
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very well, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good. We are good. We are happy to have you today. We've been going through your stuff and, trying to check, who is this man? So how is your day?
My day was quite relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
There was really nothing much. I think I was a bit chilled. At home with the family. Yeah.
That's lovely. So just a chilled Saturday and nothing too hectic going on today.
Yes.
So, before we get too far, we've just shared a bit or brief on your profile, right? But maybe, outside of everything else, who is Veli Ndaba?
Veli Ndaba is just a simple guy, that you see, in front of you, who was born in Soweto, Mdeni Township, and who grew up like any other kid, without much. Obviously, there was a lot of, struggle growing up, but I think there were so many blessings in growing up in terms of things like values, that were installed in us growing up, because I truly believe that growing up beautifully, it's not about financial resources, but it's about the love around you. It's about the support around you. It's about the relationships that you have. And I think with me growing up, with my siblings as well, because I'm the last one of the four.
Okay.
Yeah. There were so many people. I mean, the technology wasn't as it is today. So there were some families like us. So we believed in playing in the streets, and there was a lot of improvising. We didn't have to wait for these toys because they were not there.
Yeah.
So bricks would be used as toys. So,
Ali.
Yes, Ali. There was no time to wait for a soccer ball.
That's right.
We'd improvise. We'd take some papers plastic stuff them, up and play. And I think that's where creativity and open-mindedness was fueled, because you didn't have to wait for ready-made things. So that upbringing, it created a lot of fun, and at the same time, forgetting of your situation. So growing up then was that, and I think the love, in the family, and the warmth.
Yes.
So I love that, and went to school, matriculated, and then I went to varsity, to do mechanical engineering, and qualified, but maybe a step back. What made me choose engineering? It was mainly influenced by my teachers.
All right.
In high school, because they looked at my performance in maths and science, and they looked at I was one of the few guys that were performing well. They said, no, but you're doing well. You know what? And the other guys were struggling. Obviously, they said, man, why don't you do engineering? Because it pays, it comes with a lot of prestige and some benefits around it. And I think for me that was a guaranteed ticket to come out of poverty somehow. And it was something that was like coming in because the industry was opening up for black engineers, and I think at the time. So some bursaries were somehow available. So I went in there, but I didn't know anything much about engineering because, from our schools, none of my teachers had been an engineer or knew exactly what engineering was all about. They knew it was just something for clever people if you've done maths and whatever. So the reason why I'm using that or stating that is that sometimes we get so advised by people who don't know better about what is good for us. But they think, from a good place. But we find that that thing is not yours. So, but fortunately, it worked out for me.
Yeah.
And later realized that, yes, I had a mind for it, but I didn't really I had a soul for it. Because having a mind for something and having a soul for it may be two different things. So when you have a soul for something, it means you have also the passion for it. So I think for me, that's how then I chose engineering. But then I realized that I kept on asking myself a question. Is that really all there is? And then I knew that I had not really found my first love, so to speak. And I kept on searching. And then that's how I got to study different things. And I did my BSc in management science. I majored in mathematics and statistics, and I did those things. Then also the question came back. It's like, is that it? With all the finance that you've done, then I realized that with that question lingering, over my head, then I said, no, let me do something else. And I looked around and I saw those project management. They said, do a diploma in project management. And I did those things. And fortunately, I was doing well. But later on, I ended up not using them. I'll start something, then I'll move on because I was following my,
that inner voice, that inner call in you.
Yes, and then I worked until in 2011, I felt that it was time to move out because that question had not been answered. Is this it? So since then, the question was answered. Yes, transforming minds from mental darkness to mental light is what life is all about for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm still interested in that shift, in the change. You just took us through your journey on the many things that you've studied. You majored in quite a lot of significant subjects and topics. When did you realize that this is it? Because you doing mathematics, engineering, your BSc, and it's all important things that one would say, this is it, this is it, this is it. But what led you towards neuroscience?
Neuroscience came after, because when I look at it, I think having studied engineering, curiosity was something that was driving me. I've always, been driven. I've always been a self-starter. I'm not like, a wheelbarrow that needs to be pushed around all the time. And somehow I knew that life is, that my destiny is not some place that just awaits me in the future. But my destiny is a place that is linked to my daily actions and my choices. So it means you create your destiny. You don't just wait. And many people say, oh, it was his destiny. No, but you can't just see it. And then your destiny is it's what you put in is what you're going to get out.
Sure.
So to come back to your question, when did I realize, when did I know? And I think for me, I knew it when I started or when I stopped worrying about these three things. The first one, when I didn't look forward to 4:30 in the afternoon, which is the knock-off time, then I knew that now what I'm doing is...
You love what you're doing.
The second one was when I was not looking forward to Fridays. I stopped singing the song, "Was a Friday."
Yeah.
And when you are singing that song, as most people are, then it doesn't matter how much money you're getting, but your heart is taking a huge pounding.
Sure.
And then the third one was not having any anxiety on Sunday evenings when I thought about Mondays.
Wow.
Because Sundays are just handing you over literally to Mondays, to take you up and do whatever it pleases with you for the entire week.
Sure.
And then bring you back on Friday. And then those three things. So to everyone who's listening here, these are the three things. I use them as the test, to check yourself out if you're in the right place or not. Because many people become their qualifications. Because you studied accounting. I mean, also as someone who does a lot of coaching and speaking and that, I meet a lot of very accountants who are not happy, and yet the money is there. I meet some doctors as well who are not happy, but the money is there. So at the end of the day, money can do so much for you, but your heart must take over. So I think that's what happened. So for me, that's when I knew that I was home with what I do.
Wow. Lindadi.
Sure, I'm like still taking it in. But then the question to that is, how do you have that courage though?
I normally use, because I get to be asked that question, wherever I travel in the world. I mean, that's one question. How did you move from engineering to what you do now and to authoring books? And also, how did you, like you are asking a question, have that courage? But one thing I can tell you about courage is that I normally say to people, think of it this way. If you think of a lady, okay, a mother of 4 kids, who's been married for 15 years to this husband, but she's been treated badly. She's been abused. She's been, not been treated, kindly. But one day she wakes up and she says, "I've had it." And they asked to say, "But where are you going? Because who's going to support you with the kids?" He said, "I don't know where I'm going, but one thing I'm sure of is that I'm out of here." That's what we call being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And until you do that, there's no formula. I cannot teach anyone.
Yeah.
So there's a point in your life when your time has come up, because we normally say, when your time has come up but you are resisting to move, God is going to move on you. So when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you don't know, you don't have the answers. But
what you know is that you're not in the right place.
Yeah, and that
And you need to
not
move.
just knowing you're not in the right place, you know that you are out of there.
Yeah.
So courage basically is something that just comes. There's no school and there's no one who can teach you courage. When people tell you that move out and yet you're not ready, it's not going to make sense to you. You will know, yes, it's time to move out, but it won't be time for you, because
Sure.
you start thinking, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And there are many decisions that we take in our lives, and later on you start thinking and getting a bit scared and say, what if things could have gone wrong there? But hey, it didn't, or they didn't. So it's because then it means your time was ripe for you to take that decision.
Sure. Well, I love that. I love that so much. Maybe it's because I can relate to that. It was in January where I said, I'm leaving the employer. I said, I'm leaving the employer, and I left. And everyone's like, Njani, what's your plan? I'm like, I don't have a plan, but I'll make a plan.
Exactly. And I think for me, the nice way to put it is, instead of saying I'm leaving the employer, and you say, I found myself.
Yeah.
Because now you've got something to focus on. It means I found my connection. Because there are many people, you don't want to leave your employer and you're chasing things you still, because you talk to many people who are just end up lingering around, and they're just chasing, and they just think it's an achievement to leave an employer. It's not an achievement to leave an employer, but what is an achievement is connecting with the person that you're meant to be.
That's right.
So I think for me, that's what it is. And I just love that. Even if I coach and I talk to people, don't be emotional about it. Do some prototyping of your career. Do some experimentation, because at times you need to experiment, at times you need to prototype.
Yeah.
So how do you do? What are the differences?
What are the
So I look
differences?
at those things,
Yeah.
in terms of discovering your life.
Yeah. And I had
Because-
prototyped, and I was happy with my prototype.
You see, that's exactly that. So you can't just jump out at times, but
Yeah.
there are times like myself, I jumped out. That morning I did not plan that, hey, today, but something just came to me and I said,
Now it's time.
today, it is the day. And now, it is the time. Yes.
Wow.
And the rest
And that
is
was in
history.
2011.
That was 2011,
Wow.
May. Yes.
This month.
Yes.
Wow. A precious month.
This
Precious
is
month.
a precious month. This is a precious month.
Now, there's one thing we did not tell our listeners, that you are an author. You are an author. And all of this, when did the love for writing come about?
The love for writing, and once again, the love for writing didn't come then. It's something that was born in me. Because I was not born in it. It was born in me. So what does that mean? It's something that was always with me, but because of how our social lives are constructed, we need to do something that's going to make sense. If you were just someone who was writing, how were you going to make money? There wasn't going to be a career in that. So it was about mathematics, it was about physics, it was about biology,
right.
and that. So I think for me, writing really started coming out nicely after I had quit my job, after I had left corporate, because I then joined Toastmasters International because I wanted to improve my public speaking skills, because, some of us were very unfortunate. We're not one of those, or, I'm not one of those who went to some good schools like some fortunate people. And it's easy to get intimidated by people to say, oh, I can't
100%.
express myself, oh, I can't do this. And then I think I had to realize that English is just a tool. But I cannot go and say I'm going to compete on English, but I must compete on content.
That's right.
But it takes a level of confidence to get to that level. So most people get lost in English, but I didn't want to get lost in English, but in content, to say, I must be so good in the content that even if English is not so good, content
Is
is
great.
good. Because
Yeah.
you look at people who speak Afrikaans, for an example.
Yeah.
They don't care about English.
That's
But you
right.
listen to them, it's Dr. So-and-so. And I said, but why can't I do the same? But unfortunately, black people, I think they're very critical. But you need to win yourself, off that. And I think I did that. So when I started writing, when I became the president, of the Toastmasters International, chapter that I was in, because 2 years later, I was like fast-tracked. I got into that, and I was introduced by my then mentor, to the newspaper sort of like house as the new president, because I had to prepare my incoming speech. And then when I did that, and the editor of the newspaper, which I'm going to mention, is Karina van der Walt, said to me after we just engaged, and he said to me, Veli, that was in 2012, he said, when is your first book coming? I said, which book, Karina? What book are you talking about? He said to me, you're just so inspiring. You're just so motivating. Now I don't know what to do with myself, but I'm feeling so sorry because the whole world should be listening to what you're talking to me about. And I said, but I've never seen that coming. And I thought, no, she was just talking. But it took about, another year. But that seed had been planted.
Yeah.
Because I think I was underestimating myself, and I thought, no, who am I? No, I'm not an author. So that's when basically, the idea started. And then in 2013, I met my mentor, Les Brown, who is one of the top
Wow.
guys. So when I was with him, and I remember him saying to me, Veli, the book is your business card on steroid. I said, wow, on steroids? I said, yeah. He said, because if you're a speaker and don't have a book, no one can really believe you that much, because it means what you're talking about is not written anywhere, And then I said, okay, now is the time. That's when then I committed. Then in 2015, on my birthday, 22nd of Feb, then the first book was launched,
Wow.
which is entitled, You Are Born to Win. because my first book is You're Born to Win, then which in 2016 was followed by another one called Your Dream is Calling You. And then I realized that, okay, this thing is going.
Yeah.
And then the third one came, and I said, switch on your power. Switch on, because most people never live their dreams, not because they don't have the power.
That's right.
But the power is in an off position. The switch is in an off position. So when you lift it up, then things happen. And then the fourth one came during COVID, because there was a lot of hopelessness. Then I wrote the book, Set Your Soul on Fire. And I was sitting there. There was that little bit of hopelessness, but I couldn't focus on hopelessness. I had to focus on something that would get people to go. Because I said, I'm the one as well who must add to the voices of hope. I mean, like of people of hope. And then I did that. And then the fifth one came now, which was more about science, the neuroscience, because as an engineer, I don't just like to talk to people about, yes, you can make it happen, but the question is, how can you make it happen? How does the human brain work? And how does it affect human behavior? So I think for me, that's something that's important. So that's how, my journey of being an author has actually just, taken place.
Sure. It's quite interesting. I almost feel like you had to step out of corporate, and as you had found yourself, then everything else just came out,
That's exactly that. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the greatest authors, one of the greatest thinkers, he said some words that somehow they keep on, playing in my head. And he said something. So we need to look at those things, and then we need to understand that. So he said, if you confidently advance in the direction of your dreams, and you endeavor to live the life which you have imagined, you will soon meet with a success unexpected in common hours. You'll put some things behind, and you'll pass an invisible boundary. And new universal and more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within you, and you will live with a higher order of beings. So it means if you find that thing, and the minute you commit yourself and move confidently, then everything else comes.
Sure. Wow. I love that. I'm just so motivated now. I wish I could get you to talk more. But ladies and gentlemen, the time is just going 31 minutes past 7. We're going to give our guests a little bit of a break. So and then when we come back, we are shooting straight into the book. Because, you've already given us a little bit on, moving into the light, confidently. So when we come back, we are shooting straight into the book and more motivation from yourself.
Hi, my name is Veli Ndaba, the NeuroEngineer. I'm all about transforming minds from a place of mental darkness to mental light. And I use a high-performance leadership tool called the Veli Ndaba Neuroengineering Leadership Effect. And this tool is actually based on the fundamental principles of neuroscience, engineering, as well as motivation. We all need to be motivated. So this high-performance leadership tool is all about that.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The time has just gone 36 minutes past the hour. You're still tuned into The Pulpit with myself, Lindy, and I am not on my own today. I am here with the lovely, the beautiful Usis Lindani, and we are not on our own.
No, we're not.
We are with Veli Ndaba, the author of the Neuroscience of Effective Leadership. He did mention his other books, but we want to focus on this specific one today, because wow, neuroscience in Tonle. We know leadership, but hey, like a brain leadership, what is happening there? So we wanna just tap into that. And before the break, he gave us such a beautiful quote, and I'm so glad that our shows are recorded. Please listen. If you missed it, listen at midnight. It will be playing again. It's so beautiful. And can we get into the book? can we get into the book? So now you know that this is, fast forward to where you are, you know now, okay, neuroscience is where your passion is. That's where your love is. And you jot it down, Les Brown said to you, put it on paper. And now you've put it on paper, or before you put it on paper even, but you found what it is that you want to do, Maybe before we even get into you writing the book, can you tell us a little bit more about neuroscience? What is neuroscience? Because, when we're doing our research, we know it's something to do with the brain, but what about the brain?
So when you talk about neuroscience, neuro comes from the term called the nervous system, but with the focus in the brain. So it means you've got something called the nervous system, but the nervous system is divided into two.
Okay.
It's got something that is called central nervous system, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord.
Okay.
Then you've got something called the peripheral nervous system.
Okay.
That's got to do with your nerves, and things that are feeding into your spinal cord.
Okay.
I mean, like all the receptors and those things. So it means the peripheral nervous system communicates the information from the outside world to the inner world.
Okay.
But now the central nervous system communicates information from the inner world to the outside world.
Okay.
So that it makes sense. So when you talk about neuroscience, neuroscience is a study of this brain in terms of how it evolved, how it came about, why does it do what it does. Because there have been a lot of assumptions before that when you are born with a brain, then you use 10% of the brain. When you're born with this brain, then you're going to be stuck like that.
Yeah.
It's because no one had opened the brain to check out what's going on in there. People had to die first for the brain to get opened up and to see what is happening, but you can't see what's happening because it's static already then. So now with the advancement of technologies like fMRI scans, your functional magnetic resonance imaging, your EEG scans, those technologies are able now to be plugged into your brain and to show exactly which regions of the brain are active when you do certain functions.
Yeah.
So for an example, when you are angry, which parts of the brain are activated and what do they do? So what can you do to minimize maybe the level of anger or to control yourself or your emotions? So in neuroscience, therefore, it helps with the tools to understand why we behave the way we do. Because it's only when you understand, what makes you, it's for an example, it helps you understand the recipe. If you say, here is the cake in front of you, and you say it's got too much sugar, next time you bake the cake, you need to know how much sugar did you have. So neuroscience, therefore, it helps you understand what really happens in the brain so that you can change your behavior based on what you know. So it talks as well, it talks about the chemistry, because whatever drives our behavior, it's chemicals. When you talk about happiness, you're talking about a neurochemical called dopamine.
Yes.
When you're talking about bonding and trust, you're talking about oxytocin. When you're talking about things like you're talking about, stable mood, for your mood to be stable, you're talking about serotonin. You talk about testosterone. And those chemicals are the ones that drive our emotions. So that's why when someone is said to be depressed, for an example, it's simply because his or her level of serotonin is low. So if you don't sleep enough, the brain does not get enough time to heal itself.
Sure.
And to to work well with your memories. That's why you wake up being fuzzy a bit, because the brain did not sleep enough. So sleeping is something that's very important because it affects your thinking abilities. And you hear people saying, I want to sleep for 3 hours, but it's going to catch up with you. It's not something good for you. So neuroscience, therefore, it's a science that helps us to apply practical, understanding, data. It gives us evidence.
Sure. Are we going to have an altar call after this for repentance?
No, I think that's as deep as we can get.
Because, wow, I'm already a little bit challenged, when you talk about even sleeping for the brain to recover itself, and you talk about the different chemicals in the body that feed the emotions or drive the emotions. It's quite interesting because when we're doing the research, I bumped into a picture where it was actually linked to the back.
Yes.
The brain was linked to the back of the spines, and then they color it differently. They put different colors. There's red for whatever. And I was like, it's so interesting. I want to know about this. So now you've broken it down for us.
Yeah, and maybe just to simplify in terms of the brain, how I teach about how it actually works, because why it's important is that if you want to get the best out of a person, the brain, it evolved from back to front.
Okay.
So we've got a brain that is called the instinctive brain, which is the brain that drives your, that runs, it runs your basic functions, like your heartbeat. You're not controlling your heartbeat right now. Like your immune system, you're not controlling it. Like things like your digestion. You're digesting food, but you're not planning it. Those are autonomic actions. Those are, automatic sort of activities that are taking, or functions. So that's number one. Then the second one that came was the one that is called the emotional brain. So that's the one that makes us feel the emotions that we feel. And the third one is what is called the thinking brain.
Okay.
So it means the emotional brain and the thinking brain, when you feel threatened, or I look at you, I'm not feeling, comfortable with you, the thinking brain is not going to engage, because it's going to become about survival. I need to watch my back.
Okay.
So that's the same thing that goes even in the workplace. When you've got the bosses who are saying heads are going to roll when this thing is not done, or the bosses that are threatening you. When you feel threatened, your thinking abilities go down. Because you become about survival. It's about, it's about survival. It's about saying, if it means, one thing that I need to check out here is that I'm safe.
Yeah.
Because before, the brain was always about that. The brain is always ensuring that you are safe. So the rule is safety comes first. If you're not feeling safe in a place, you cannot just come and threaten and say, please be creative. I want you to be creative. Come up with a creative idea right away. You cannot. So creativity comes when you are relaxed. Your thinking is at its best when you are relaxed, when you feel comfortable. That's why, therefore, when you talk about shower moments, why do you become creative in a shower? Why do you get so many ideas in a shower? It's because it's non-threatening there. You're not even thinking about taking a shower. Your mind is just wandering, and it connects different parts and regions of the brain. That's why ideas drop like that. But if you feel that you are threatened and you are scared of something, you can't be creative, because the brain is focusing on being safe.
Yeah.
So leaders, therefore, why I wrote the book is to be able to say, you cannot talk about peak performance and bring out the best in others if you don't make them feel safe and supported.
That's right.
Yes. So neuroscience, therefore, is using the tools in terms of how can you then do that? Because now we're using technology to say, unlike before, to say, instead of threatening people or saying you're going to give them money to be creative, you can only give them so much money. The rest of it, they need to be relaxed. They need to be themselves. They need to feel that they belong.
That's so interesting. And, even as you are breaking it down, I'm thinking now, the pulpit. The pulpit is about pastors, and pastors are leaders, are generally leaders, and you do the leadership training and coaching to leaders and executives. Now, looking at pastors and looking at the Christian fraternity, we have seen now of late in the past few years where leaders had this sort of power to make people do things that are not human,
Out of the norm.
out of the norm, things that are not normal. We see people eating grass, we see people drinking things that they shouldn't be drinking, and listening to you, I'm thinking there must be something that, or a chemical that they probably working on? I don't know if you would be able to, answer that. What could it be that when they speak on authority, especially because now you just told us that, it's no longer about threatening and you get what you want. When people are threatened, they don't get what they want. But here's somebody who comes and tells you to do something that does not make sense, and people do those things. How then does the brain work around that?
The brain works the way it does. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you are white or Indian or black or pastor or non-pastor and whatever, the brain works the same. Unfortunately, leadership is under siege.
Okay.
Because many people are promoted into roles of leadership, and yet they don't understand human behavior. They don't understand what drives human behavior. They don't understand what leadership is about. Leadership is not about being served. Leadership is about serving. Leadership is not your right or a right. It's not a right, but it's a privilege. And leadership is about eating last instead of eating first.
Yeah.
It's like being a parent.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because you take technical people or because someone has got, this skill, and then you say, okay, now we're going to make you a leader. Unfortunately, leadership has been misunderstood for the longest time because they thought leadership is management. Management and leadership are not the same.
That's right.
Because management is about, systems that are in place. Did you put these things in that box? Yes. Tick. Did you measure that like that? Does it measure? Yes. But it doesn't have much to do with emotions and people and whatever. But leadership is about leading people, leading the vision, and taking people with you, and so that they can see.
That's right.
So most people are promoted because technically they can tick the boxes. But where are people?
Sure.
People are no longer left behind. So someone, therefore, because he doesn't have the skill to understand people, he just pushes people around. They think they're just numbers. It's like taking an accountant, a pure accountant who's good, at punching those numbers, and you say, now you're going to lead a group of accountants. You are killing those other accountants because there's no emotional element to this. So that's where I come in then. To make them understand how the human brain, works. Because some people, our schools are teaching us to be more technical than to be emotional.
So, Mr. Ndaba, just on that, do you think people, it's either you're born to be a leader or it's something that you can just learn along the way with coaching or certain training?
I love that question. I mean, that's one of the the question. That's one of the questions that is very popular. We're living in a world that has created binary conditions of either or. Are leaders born or made? Because we don't understand how the human brain works once again.
Sure.
And the brain is not about the binary, like binary conditions of either or. But leaders are both born and also made.
Okay.
But a third, what science has shown is that a third of what makes good leaders good or effective is based on genetics.
Okay.
It means they're born with it.
Yeah.
Like being a people's person, you can't go to school for that.
That's
It's
right.
either you have it or you don't have it.
Yeah.
So it's something that you are born. It's in your DNA. You understand that? So it's something. Just to be good with people, you either born. So you can't go to school. So that's an example of those things that form a third of being an effective leader. Then 2/3. It comes with training. But you need to be willing to be trained. I mean, there are leaders who are not like, they don't have all the things like, you realize that they don't have, but they understand what leadership is. They can sit down with people, understand how, what drives
The
them.
thinking,
And get coaching as well, feedback. They take, because feedback is a free education. But if you have ego, you'll miss out on that free education. Because people can give you feedback every day to say, wow, I think you could have handled yourself better there. But those who are not leaders but who are called leaders, they don't take kindly to that. So it means, therefore, to come back to your question, leaders, it's not a question of either or.
Yeah.
They are both. They can both be developed, but also there are some elements that they are born with them. Some people there are people who definitely are very poor leaders. I mean, they prefer to sit down and be analysts. But because they become so good at what they do, companies trust them so much, and they want to make them leaders because they don't want to lose them. And it's a poor strategy. So you don't want to take someone who is poor and you make them, a leader, because he's going to destroy all the good people that you have.
So how then do you balance? I'm just thinking now. Here's a CEO of this company that's that's doing well, still growing, still new, or even an established company, right? We've got this person who is great with the numbers, no people skills, and we've got this person who's got the people skills but no knowledge per se. How does one then balance? Because I can imagine how expensive it would be for them to bring two managers and two different characters. It would not make sense. How do you then, what does one do in that situation?
And normally it's not as difficult as that. I mean, like to say you have to choose between this and that. And normally culture is something that's very important.
Okay.
That's number one, the culture of the organization.
Yeah.
Is it supportive enough? I mean, are people feeling that they are part of the team? And then secondly, your recruiting or your hiring strategy. What kind of people do you get? Do you just get people? Because unfortunately, when people are hired, when companies are advertising for positions, they want people who are individually great, who are individually brilliant. But what about teams? Because when you find this person not being so good at building teams or working in a team, and yet you want them to be a leader, so that's something that you need to consider somehow. So with organizations, coaching is something that's very key.
Okay.
So that's why I look at that, and I run workshops and I do talks and I do coaching, because I mean no one just was born knowing everything. So we all get to be trained and coached, but there must be willingness from your side. So the neuroscience of effective leadership then, in terms of my book, is the one that gives you the basics so that you understand, this is the reason why I behave like this. No wonder why a person is like that. Some people, they become aggressive because they don't know better, they feel threatened. So how do you then, as a leader, do you make people feel that they are supported, even if they don't know, to say, guys, yes, I know you don't know this, but I'm going to walk with you, I'm going to support you. They feel that, no, okay, it means it's not going to be a bad thing to fall.
Yeah.
But if you say, and they know that if you fall here, then you're gone, and then you say, let's go, I mean, like, I'm going to support you, but they know that you're not going to support them, that becomes a problem.
Now, with I'm thinking there's just a very fine line, né? And I'm thinking about myself. I can either work or get very lazy. I either work a lot or I laze around, With people like that, how do you then balance it? Because when I feel like sometimes when I'm too comfortable, then I become slightly a little bit lazy. I've seen also with certain people that I know where when they're comfortable, then they're not worried about what needs to be done. No, we'll do it. The procrastination, that's where it comes in and all of that. How do you then, maybe can you speak to somebody who's like that? Where does one draw the line, especially in a work environment, and how does one come out of that? Even in your comfort, even as you are made to feel like a person, a human being that you belong in this particular organization, but you don't get too relaxed.
The problem is, I think in the book as well, I touch on that. There's something that the curve that are called stress performance curve.
Perform well under pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's me.
When you talk about stress performance curve, so it means it's stress somehow on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis is performance.
Okay.
It means when you are less stressed, performance gets low. Because it means, now stress means that you are not challenged. The brain is not feeling challenged. And the more it gets challenged, there must be a sweet spot where the brain is sort of like challenged. It must be challenged enough so that you are able to perform at your highest. Because once you become more stressed or more challenged, then that curve starts going down. You start to feel like you start feeling like things like, burnout. Starting to feel that, you can't even sleep at night. You are challenged because now it means you are taking too much. You never meet your deadlines. You're always chasing this. You're always chasing that. Then work like that, it becomes not good for you because it means the stress hormones are forever released into your bloodstream.
That's right.
And that affects your thinking. That affects your immune system. That increases your heartbeat or your heart rate. Then you end up even having a heart failure or heart conditions, and then blood pressure as well because more blood is pumping because the brain is saying you are under attack. And now when you're under attack, it means the body is turbocharged to fight.
Yeah.
So you can't always be in a fighting state. That's where now anxiety is. That's why that's where depression even comes. So because of that, so you need to understand where you are. Don't take a job because it pays a lot of money and yet you are out of depth for it, because that's exactly what's going to happen. But also don't take a job where you are not challenged, because the brain is going to have a problem. Rather find something else or ask for something else. If you find yourself that I'm a bit not challenged, go and volunteer and get something else, because it's for your own good. So many people are saying, oh, but that's not in my job description. And I think that part of, that mindset is the one that stops people from growing. Because it's always not about, it's not in your job description. But your growth, you are sabotaging your own growth.
So, Mr. Ndaba, I just want to make sure I've understood that. So are you saying there kind of needs to be a balance between that, stress and not stress?
Yes.
Okay.
So stress, it means stress is good.
Got it.
To a certain level.
Got it.
Because normally people say, I don't want something that's going to stress me.
Yes,
But stress,
yes.
like, if we don't have a minimum amount of stress and you are going to write an exam, you will end up failing that exam because you are too relaxed. But when also you are too stressed, you're not going to perform. So you don't want to perform at your extreme. You don't want to be at the extremes.
Yeah.
Of this curve, because it's like a bell-shaped curve. But you want the sweet spot. You want to fluctuate in that sweet spot, and that's where we get to a point that is called the flow, the zone.
Flow.
The zone is that place where it's you are challenged enough to perform, and yet you are challenged enough not to feel that you are lazy, or to feel that you are under challenged. So you don't want to be under challenged, and also you don't want to be over challenged.
Got it.
If you are over challenged, but it must be by something like 4%. That's what studies have actually released. I've actually indicated. So don't take something that will end up demotivating you. So even the challenges that you are taking, take one challenge at a time. Just build on them, create that momentum. That's why we talk about this thing of, this effect where we are building up things. Don't take too much. Take the small thing. And when you take a small part of what you want to do and you achieve it, the brain releases the chemical called dopamine. It means the motivation. It makes you feel good, and you want to take more. And you take a little bit. But if you take too much and you don't make it, it takes you all down because you start feeling bad. So that's the science that I bring in to people to say, this is what you need. So it's based on science. It's not just talking, just believe in yourself. Just say yes to yourself. Come on, guys. We can't just talk about that.
There's more to life than that.
Show me some evidence. Show me data. So with the brain stuff, then that's what I'm showing. So all my posts and my articles are about that as well.
Mr. Ndaba, if we could just understand, what is the difference between leaders versus bosses?
I think when you hear even the way that they come out, the other one is a bit silent leader. The other one is a boss. It's got some
presence.
Yeah, it's got some presence. And I think I know some people who call others boss.
Yes, yes.
Not in a bad way. I think it becomes a way, of just calling, people. But most often someone who is just referred to as a boss is someone who will boss people around. It comes back to that. It means it's someone whom you cannot ask why.
Sure.
It's someone that you cannot challenge. Someone that you cannot sort of like share a different opinion with. So it means his or her word is final. So most often is that, and that tends to be very toxic leaders. Whereas when someone is said to be a leader, yes, I mean, also they can be used interchangeably, but someone who is a leader is someone who is, hence here I'm talking about in the book,
Yeah.
effective leader.
Yeah.
Not just any leader, because
Yeah.
I mean, like an effective leader. So when you talk about an effective leader, rather, it's someone who is able to listen, someone who is able to influence positively, someone who is able to bring out the best in other people, someone who is able to be an example of what it is that he's expecting of others. That's why Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So that's what leadership is about. Leadership is not about instructing, but it's about asking questions that can nudge people to go a certain direction, but also get them to really ask. I normally say as well that there are choices in life. I mean, other people in the workplace, they are very good at creating order takers, whereas leaders are very good at developing thinkers. Now, order takers are people who just follow instructions through and through. But when you allow them to think, they can't think, they just sit there. When the boss is not there, they get so excited. You know, they sit there, oh, kokageko, you know, we're having great time. Wow, we're just having a day, sit there and whatever. So it means most of those people are order takers, because they can't just sit and think of themselves, for themselves and say, this, let me create this, let me do this, let me do that. So, and people are not even aware of that. So, but when you create or you develop thinkers, it means even when you're there, you give them opportunities, you know, to ask questions. And when they ask you a question, you challenge them as well to maybe come up with some solutions. Because you are making them. The best way to get people to think, the best way to ignite the brain is by asking questions.
That's right.
And you say the quality of questions determine the quality of answers. And I like what Silicon Valley, I mean, like when you look at the Silicon Valley, they've got also this saying that answers or questions are the new answers. But unfortunately, our schooling system is not teaching us to ask questions, but to answer the questions.
Yeah.
So you end up having people who are qualified, but on answering questions. Now, we cannot solve problems by just asking or by answering questions, but we need to be able to formulate certain things. Like a lot of entrepreneurship that is spoken about. Entrepreneurship is not just solving something that has been solved. It's about looking out there and identifying opportunities, identifying problems, and coming up with solutions. Now that's an entrepreneur. Oh, that's entrepreneurship. But then coming back to this issue of leadership, we cannot all be the same.
Yeah.
We cannot all want to be leaders.
Yeah.
Some people are specialists through and through. So find out what is your sweet spot. Find out what's your nature. What is your natural habitat. What's your natural habitat? Like for me, this is my natural habitat.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to put me there to sit down and always analyze numbers, I've done that, but that's just not me. I can do that for the time, but just give me the stage. Let me go out and just do what I do. I can just do it forever. You understand that? So we all have to find this thing.
Yeah.
So leadership, therefore, is the same thing as that.
And I think it ties back to the question that we've asked for today. You know, when Mr. Ndaba is talking about a leader that allows you to think and ask, that curiosity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just bring out the curiosity. We had a question of the day. Sorry, can I just interject there? Our question of the day is: have you ever had a leader that stirred you to curiosity, and what was the outcome? And maybe at a later stage, we'd like for you, before you leave, to answer that for us. You know, if you know, because you talk about mentors, you talk about having people, you know, so that's tells us that you too are accountable to somebody, you know, to say, this is the direction I want to take, and there's somebody who's saying, how far are you, with where you want to go?
Yes.
Which is quite interesting, for a man of your caliber. And maybe that's another thing. Maybe we can just talk about it now, actually, where because our time is limited, how important is it to have a mentor, even as a leader? Because we see there's quite a lot of people who are self-made. I run this on my own, I do this on my own. But and then we see there's a difference in leadership when somebody has somebody else that they always fall back to, and somebody who advises them.
There's a quote or a saying that says, you cannot see the label if you are inside the box. So to see the label, someone has to see it for you. And you cannot see the picture if you're in a frame. Someone has to be outside of the frame to see how you are positioned as a picture inside of that frame.
That's right.
So this is about saying, for you to be the best that you can be, someone has to see it for you. There's someone who will see in you that which you cannot see. I mean, there are a lot of people who have seen a lot in me that I was blinded to. Then I'll say, oh, no, not me. Like what I said earlier.
Yeah.
When is your first book coming? I'll say, oh, not me.
Yeah.
When Les Brown said to me, man, you've got so much in you. You've got, when you speak, there's so much power. And I thought to myself, oh, no. But when I looked at him, at first I thought, no, he's just making me feel good.
Yeah.
But later on, and I understood what he meant.
Yeah.
But we need some people who are going to say certain things to us until we believe in those things. That's why even in the word it says, faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing. Until you can hear that thing over and over again, then faith cannot formulate. So it's all about those things, the seeds that are planted. So now when it comes to mentorship and coaching, those things are very important. And I need to say this. You know what pains my heart sometimes? When people come across and people who, they see me with my books, or, when I go there, and you hear a guy saying, oh, a lady, sister, oh no, hey, Veli, I love this book, man. I need to support you. And I say, oh my goodness, I need to buy this book to support you. Or like, for an example, next week Saturday, I'm running a seminar, on discovering your purpose. And someone say, oh no, man, I'm going to support you. I'm going to come in. Who are you supporting? Are you supporting me, or are you finding yourself? Are you transforming yourself from mental darkness to mental light?
Right.
It's not about me. So many people never invest in books because they think they're going to make
Somebody
an
else
author rich. And that's a wrong mindset. One of my teachers, I remember in high school, used to say to me, and that's when I started to have the passion of reading, because I used to do that somehow. He said to me, Veli, whenever you open the book, you open the world. It doesn't matter how old that book is, how tattered it is, how dead it is. But whenever you open the book and you read, there's something new you're going to find. And you don't know what's going to happen to you with that information. So I took that going forward. And then that's why. And also coming back to a number of things that we learned, to say, you're not doing someone a favor. A coach and a mentor, those are people that are going to help you to grow. And that will help you to see things in yourself that you were never going to see. They will take you to a place. And Isaac Newton said, if I've seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. So who are the giants in your life? Because you can't just see things for yourself. If you can only see here, it's because you are standing on the shoulders of midgets. So get giants in your life, get people. That's why, therefore, I play with people in the world. And I say, because I wanted to be a global player, so that wherever I am in the world, I can operate. You don't want just to be relevant here.
Sure.
You're relevant in Tembisa, you're relevant in Soweto, you're only relevant. But when you go out there, you just irrelevant. Now, that becomes a problem. So it comes with that. Hence, therefore, say, as leaders, it comes back to saying, don't just treat people the way that you want to be treated. That's what is called the golden rule.
Yeah.
But based on science and what has been found from research and studies, we came up, there's this platinum rule. It says, treat others the way that they want to be treated. Because who said they want to be treated like you?
Yes.
So it's because we say these things because everyone is saying that I don't want to be treated like you. So as a leader, you need to find out from me, how would I like to be treated?
That's
not,
right.
not only as leaders, but as partners in relationships. Don't try to control other people just to be like you. Because, now you don't want to change. Find out how they want to be treated so that they can be the best of themselves.
That's right.
Because they cannot be the best of you. So treat others the way that they want to be treated. So leadership is about listening, is about studying other people. It's not about trying to force them to be you. Yes, that's how it goes.
That's the neuroscience of effective leadership. I'm sitting here and I'm like, the light has just come on. So you transformed us from darkness to light. Or from light to light. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. And we have our question that Sis Lindani will ask you now.
So, Mr. Ndaba, you spoke around, feedback, right? And I think just right now, it's getting that feedback around how I can treat you as a leader. But then again, how do I make sure as a leader in that feedback I take it and I use it wisely? Because sometimes as leaders, our brains, we are emotional beings, right? How do I make sure that as a leader, in whatever feedback that you're giving me, whether good or bad, I'm able to use it?
When I talk about leadership, one thing that I would like to emphasize is that leadership starts with self. So whenever I talk about leadership, it's not something that starts out there. It starts with yourself, leading yourself. Can you take care of your hygiene? Can you take care of your ideas? Can you take care of your thoughts? Can you take care of your relationships? That's self-leadership. And then when you have mastered that, then you can be able to lead other people. Do you really understand yourself?
Yeah.
And feedback is directly proportional or directly linked to your level of self-confidence and self-esteem. If your self-confidence level is not high enough, you're going to easily be challenged because any feedback is going to rattle you.
Yeah.
So the relationship you have with feedback is directly proportional to the level of self-confidence you have with yourself. If I feel that I know that if you give me feedback, I've got nothing to lose but everything to gain. And I say, no, thank you. And it's going to be up to me. Thank you for being willing to help me grow. And that's what I talk about in the book as well, in my talks, about moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
Yes.
So it means when you are given feedback, it's an opportunity for you to grow and to be a better person. So don't take things personal, but it comes with coaching and training.
Yeah.
Yes.
So people, unfortunately, they don't want to be trained because they are scared of being exposed. And there are evolutionary reasons for that. And that's what I explain in the brain, to say the brain is designed and has been adapted to survive. Safety is the first thing. So if you give me feedback, I feel like you are attacking my thing. So until you are saying, no, it's a good thing for me. So it needs to start reframing what feedback means. Do you really understand what feedback is about? So I run training sessions around that in terms of giving and receiving feedback.
Thank you.
Because feedback is a gift.
Yes.
Because without feedback, it means you are limiting yourself, because you cannot see the label if you are trapped inside the box. You need someone who's outside of the box who's going to tell you that. I mean, all of us, if people knew that, if they were to give us feedback, they are free to give us feedback. That's free education. If they tell you that, you say, wow, no, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And when you say thank you, to that person for giving you feedback, you are encouraging them.
Yes.
And next time, then you have made it easier. And to say, and also it comes back to how they give it to you. But it doesn't mean that they sugarcoat it, but with respect. But if you think that you know everything, then there's a problem. But it comes with coaching And that's why I'm a coach on that one. Understanding how the brain works. Why does it do that? Why does it make you not want to take feedback? Because once you understand the science behind it, then you know, okay, this is the brain is actually playing tricks on me.
Yeah.
And you fix it.
Yeah. Where do our listeners get hold of you if they want to book you?
I'm available on all social media, platforms. I mean, you can check me out on Facebook. I mean, Veli Ndaba, the NeuroEngineer. I'm there. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me even on TikTok. Yeah, on TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And yes, that's who I am, because I mean, most of the time, especially on LinkedIn, because I deal a lot with professionals and organizations, because there's a lot of darkness, but also with individuals, because basically I do three things.
Okay.
I speak, whenever as a church, maybe you want to book me just to come in, because we've got lots and lots of challenges out there. And then I run workshops where now we are focused on delivering on certain things. Why do we do what we do? Team building sessions, I do them. And then I do coaching. Because change does not happen by speaking and by running a workshop over 2 days and you say, oh, now people have changed. No, it's through coaching, so that I can observe your behavior on a daily basis and give you feedback, because coaching is about that. Change happens when you get feedback and you take it kindly.
Yeah.
But if you don't take it kindly, you feel like you are attacked. So change the relationship you have with feedback. That's my message that I'm going to leave with you.
Change the relationship you have with feedback. I love that. I love that. It's beautiful. So they can just inbox you on your socials and you are available.
Yes, definitely.
So earlier on, I said maybe you can just think about our question of the day, which we did ask our listeners, and I'm going to pose it back. I'm going to throw it back to you. Have you ever had a leader that stirred you towards curiosity? We know the outcome. Justin J.
I'll tell you, I think it started off as well at the beginning of my career, when I had just left university, when I was starting to work.
Yeah.
I started my work at Transnet, or my career at Transnet then, and there was a guy who became my first manager. His name was Martin Mulder. He was a chief engineer, and we became very close, because whenever there was something, for an example, you would say, okay, Veli, I need a report. I mean, there was a sort of like, there were a number of us in the department, but whenever I would go to him and say, no, you've done this project now, I need a report, or I need this, and I say, so, and call you and say, so when am I going to get my report? You say, no, I'm going to give it to you. Let's say it's on Monday. So I'm going to give it to you on Friday. He says, no, I want it tomorrow. So no, how can you get it? It can't be. He said, no, why not? Please tell me step by step what will make you give it to me on Friday. You will find yourself clutching on straws. No, but I still need to go and find out. I said, but to find out, you can pick up a call and call that person. So now that's 10 minutes, okay? We're done with
10 minutes, yes.
What's next? And he didn't actually know how much impact, that had on me.
Yeah.
When someone is asking you, because we always try to make excuses for ourselves. Always try to get the further state. No, and you say, if we ask someone, so when can I get feedback on this? No, let me see, I'm going to give it on Wednesday. I said, no, why not on Monday? And you say sometimes on Tuesday, saying, you see, when I said to you I want it on Wednesday, I was doing you a favor. Actually, you can give it to me even on Tuesday. Then you are left out there. And then you will laugh at you and said, no. So you and I, then we've got a date. And then so I think that pushed me to be curious. And later on now, Case Western University, Riverside, picked up something, and they found that about a 4-year-old kid asked on average of about 250 questions a day. Why, mommy? Why that? So we are born with curiosity.
Yeah.
But as we grow up, it's beaten down to the ground by even our schools and our society and our families. You talk too much. Shut up. Don't do this. Don't. And kids grow up hearing, no, don't do this. Don't do that. No. You're not. And schools are not structured or constructed to answer questions, but to push curriculum. so that we can get ready for tests and exams. Now, what that means is that at the end of the day, questioning and curiosity has been killed. And that's where answers are meant to come from. When you are curious, that's when we can find ourselves. So for me, yes, that boss of mine started off also maybe that journey, which is something that I had, but he always helped me to be focused. And then the others, they joined in. So I'm sure. Is the question answered?
It's very well answered. And it's quite interesting as well. As you're speaking, I'm thinking it's quite interesting how where I am right now, or where we are right now, we are looking at you and we're like, what a great leader. What a man, what a father.
Yes.
What a husband. But
What a
now,
leader.
what a leader, And it's quite interesting also to hear how you were stirred up, because we all get stirred up, but then I don't know, sometimes people get scared and stuff. But yeah, we are so grateful that you have given us your time today and, sharing with us. I literally feel like,
Blown away.
the light just went on. The light just went on.
No, I think, thank you so much, I think, for the opportunity as well, just to share, what I love, because for me, it's about that. It's about, something that makes you lose sense of time. Something that makes you, it numbs your pain.
Yeah.
You forget about things when you do it. So I think we all have that in us, but we just need to find that thing that drives you as an individual, because sometimes we get stuck in jobs, and yet we miss out our callings. So I think for me, it's always about trying to connect with that calling, something that is naturally you. If money wasn't an issue, what would you do? So that's the question. Yes, thank you.
If money was not an issue, what would you do? Connect with your calling.
Your passion.
And your passion. And those were the last words from our guest, our esteemed guest, about Veli Ndaba this evening. Thank you so much. May the good Lord bless you, may extend you, and may extend your territory, may continue to use you for His glory and for His kingdom. May continue to educate more and more people. I was just thinking now that, maybe our kids need to get these lessons, to know, so that they understand themselves better.
Definitely.
But there's so much growth, and there's so much opportunity of communities learning, especially our black communities learning about this.
And what is interesting is that when you talk to parents, they say, "Oh, I wish our kids, could," and yet they count themselves out, and they say, "But our kids must see from us."
Yes.
It's better to guide them like that. It's like saying, "Oh, read those books," but
That's right.
you don't
You
read
never
books
read.
at all.
That's right.
So
That's
that
right.
becomes a problem. So be an example.
Yes.
Yes, be the change that you'd like to see in the world.